Oh, James,
Yes, Madeleine.
I want to mention something to you.
Please do.
I am attending an intensive course on Zoom for 10 days. So if you don't mind, for this week and next week, I will be leaving half an hour before the end of the class.
Well, so of course, Madeleine, we will miss you, but may
I will miss you too very much, but I cannot change the schedule, of course.
Okay, fine. Not a problem at all. May
Thank you.
the course bring you much benefit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple more people coming in. And Peldon's just joining us. Are you with us, Peldon? So hang on, let me just, press the wrong button again. There we are. Pull up Bhagavad Gita on the shared screen. Yes, okay, welcome again, Paladin. Those of you who were with me at the Pali session that we did a little bit earlier will recall that I wasn't able to link my iPad to the shared screen. And I think it was yourself, Paladin, who suggested that I should turn it off and turn it on again. What I could recommend, Paladin, although that advice is generally well given, you need to take your advice one level deeper and remind me, my elderly brain, that in order for that function to work, I should have remembered to turn the app on the computer on first, which I had omitted to do. There we are. It's now done, and we now have the iPad available for shared screen. So what we will get, Teresa.
Say, at the end of the last session, I couldn't see the text anymore. So I don't know why. Is it something I've done, or I couldn't see the text. So
was everyone else okay? Wonder. So the other Paladin, you were able to see the text. Yeah, as far as I could detect, there was nothing wrong with the text at my end. So that may have been a loss of function at yours.
Maybe when you put the text up this time, I'll be able to see it.
Okay, okay. Let me now. I'll start sharing screen now. Share screen 1.
Thank you, James. I can see it.
Okay, very good. I hope that continues. And also, can you, if I move this out of the way, can you see my iPad screen? You can't see my iPad screen. Ah, well, I can. Oh dear.
It's there, James. It's just you've got 2 screens open and we can see both of them.
Can you see the iPad now as a full shared screen? Okay, good. Yes. Oh, you had me worried for a moment. Right, so according to my notes, we just needed to finish off the Bhagavad Gita. chapter 2, verse 5. Had we completed the recitations? I can't remember how far we'd gone. Here we are. Can anyone remind me what point we've reached?
If I remember correctly, I think we did not recite it.
Okay, but had we got to the end of the explanation?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Madeline.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay then, so I'll just read it through once, and then anyone who has any comment or query, please raise it. So, Guru Nahatvahi Mahanubhavan Shreyo Bhoktum Bhaikshyamapiha Loke Hatvarthakamasu Guru Nihaiva Bhunjya Bhogan Rudhira Pradigdhan. And as I was explaining this, Guru Nahatvahi, Han to kill, Hatva, the absolutive, having killed, Ahatva, literally not having killed. But here it has the meaning of instead of killing, rather than killing. So Guru Nahatvahi, rather than killing these gurus, Mahanubhavan, of great majesty, of great charisma, Shreyo Bhoktum, it is better to enjoy Bhaikshyam, alms food that's given to you by way of alms. Api Bhaikshyam api, even alms food, iha loke, here in the world. Tatvartha kamastu guru nehaiva, bunjya bhogan, rudhira pradigdhan. So, hatva, having killed, here it means if I kill. If I kill these gurus, the gurun, arthakamantu, the arthakaman, wealth desiring. In other words, they are consumed by a desire for material gain. So even though these people are consumed by an evil desire for material gain, even though that is true, nevertheless, if I kill them, I will have enjoyments, these bhoga, these blood-stained enjoyments. So yes, they are behaving in an evil way. Nevertheless, if I kill them, all the enjoyment that I get will be stained with blood. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask about, and we can proceed to a.
James, can I ask about the Devanagari with you have a little sort of a dash?
Yes. Here we are. Yeah. So I've got two lots of Devanagaris, you know.
Oh, I see. Yes. So the dash is just to split up the word. I see. On the
So, have you fully understood the two sets of Devanagari, Teresa?
Yes, I missed that. I do. I understand now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thanks. I understand now why it's there. It's not actually Devanagari. It's just the separated words.
Yeah, so that's actually quite an important point here that Teresa's raised. I just want to make sure that you all have it. In the text box, the first text box, you'll see the verse written in Devanagari, the same verse written twice. The first one, the one that I'm highlighting here, is how it would correctly be written in the Devanagari. With the words joined, possibly can join them, you do. So, for example, Guru Nihaiva, the Guru Nihaiva is actually three words, Gurun Iha Eva. And in the second set of Devanagari, it's the same words but written separating out the sandhi. You would not normally correctly do that, but it's done as an aid to the students. And in fact, even in some Devanagari texts printed in India, if it's just a Sanskrit text is printed, it will be written correctly in Devanagari as you would expect. But it often happens. In fact, this is taken straight from an edition of the Bhagavad Gita published in India, where this bit, as I say, is correctly done, and the second one, in order to assist the students, separates the words out. So, for example, here, Guru, you've got the N there with the Virama under it, Gurun, somebody, Ahatva. Correctly in Devanagari, you write Gurun Nahatva, and this Na there is the end, the N at the end of Gurun, and the A beginning with Ahatva. And this is purely to assist the students. Where is the word broken? The correct separation of the word. And it's also done with Sandhi Vigraha. Yeah, welcome, Kath. The Sandhi Vigraha. Does everyone understand what is meant by Sandhi Vigraha? Okay, the Sandhi. Sorry.
It means that you remove the sandhi.
Exactly so.
Yes.
Yeah. So from our root, would you like to explain this word vigraha, Madeline?
V is the prefix that means to separate, to divide,
Exactly.
and graha is to unite, or so when you add V, it means you separate what is linked. That's what I think.
Exactly so.
Oh, okay.
That is correct. I would add one thing: the graha is not so much to unite, but simply to
grasp.
take, yeah. In fact, our English word grasp,
yes,
and grip, and grah.
yeah.
And it's the same like group in French, gruppa in Italian, la group in French. It's all that same word. So you are vigraha, simply taking out the sandhi.
Yes.
So, for example, if you look here, kaman tu. Now, by sandhi, where you get a word in Sanskrit, a word ending in a n, and if the next word begins in a t, you actually put in a s, kamastu. But here, kamantu. They've done that just to, as I say, to assist the students. Right then, for recitation of it, the first in my gallery is Anne. Would you like to recite it for us, please, Anne?
I'll try. Guru Nahatva hi Mahanupavan Shreyo Bhoktum Bhaikshama Piha Loke Hatvarta Kamam Tu Guru Nihaiva Bunchia Bhogan Rudira Pradigtan.
Okay, very good. There's one thing. It's that, let me enlarge this a bit. That S there didn't come out distinct. Hatvarta kamanstu. Hatvarta kamanstu.
Atvarta kamanstu.
Yes, and that's it doesn't grammatically belong. As you see, the separate words are kaman, next word tu is just euphonically inserted. It's a strange leftover or strange survival from a previous time. In fact, there's quite a rhythm to this line with longs and short. Guru nahatvahi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyamapi haloke. Quite a strong rhythm in this verse. Hatvarta kamanstu guru nehaiva bunjya bhogan rudhira pradigdhan. Would you just recite this last line again for us, Anne? Bunjya bhogan.
Bunjya bhogan rudhira pradigdhan.
Okay, right. Very good. Yeah, thank you then, Anne. Thank you. We're around to you, Teresa.
Okay. Just make it smaller. Okay. Guru Nahatvani Mahanubhavan Shreyo Bhoktum Bhaikshyam
Bhaikshyam, yeah.
Bhaikshyamapi ha loke hatvarta kamam stu guru nihaiva bunjya bogan rudhi rapradi han.
Okay. Just one thing, this ya can tend to get lost in the bhaikshya, bhaikshya, and it's pronounced quite distinctly in the Sanskrit bhaikshya. Say bhaikshyam api haloke.
Bhaikshyamapi loke.
Okay, that was correct. That's very, very good. This bhikshya, by the way, it's from the same root as from which we get bhikshu, in Pali bhikkhu, meaning a monk. So the word literally does mean a beggar. So the bhikshya is begged food, or food that is given to you, given to a beggar as alms. Right, thank you, Teresa. We're round to you, Madeleine.
Yes. Guru Natvahi Mahanubhavan Shreyo Bhoktum Vaikshya Bhaikshya Mapi Haloke Hatvartha Kamamstu Guruni Haiva Bhunjiya Bhogan Rudhira Pradigdhan.
Wonderful. Now, this is a matter of interest. Can I just ask you to recite this highlighted line again?
Yes. Hatvartha kamamstu gurun ihaiva.
Okay, right. Up until, yes, welcome, Marco, welcome. Up until a while ago, I had been confidently telling everybody that this anuswara sound before the s was pronounced as a kind of nasal. I'm particularly glad you've joined us, Marco, because I'm going to ask for your advice in a moment. It's how do you pronounce this anuswara before a s? Now, if you are a Hindi speaker, you're going to pronounce it just as a nasal sound. Varta kamastu. It's the same that nasal vowel that you have in French, for example. La France, la France, the R sound. And you also have that same sound in Hindi, And that same sound occasionally appears in Sanskrit and Vedic. But listening to some Vedic chanting the other day, and also actually was one Brahmin had some, he was giving us a YouTube thing on the phonetics of Sanskrit, and he would say that it's pronounced as a straight N sound, kamanstu. So which is correct? Well, I've heard from very respectable sources, one saying kamanstu, which would be natural for a Hindi speaker to do, and another saying kamanstu, pronouncing as a full N. So, Marco, you're the expert on Brahmanical and Vedic chanting. How would you pronounce the anusvara in that place? That vartakamastu.
Maybe a nasal N.
Okay, it's like as if it were just a straight ordinary N. Kamanstu. Okay, that coincides exactly with what I heard in this recent YouTube lesson I was watching by a Brahmin. And have you? I don't know whether you've heard much chanting by native Hindi speakers, but would you have heard something kamastu, not anstu, but astu, kamastu?
Not sure.
Okay, maybe, in fact, I'm beginning to think, so I started thinking a while ago, that probably the way that you are doing it, Marco, is very pure and derived from pure Brahmanical sources. So for the moment, I think I'm changing my mind now, that we would pronounce it as a straight N. However, be prepared to hear perfectly learned and respectable people whose native language is Hindi to pronounce it just as a nasalized vowel, almost like the French would pronounce it, kamastu. So I don't know whether I'll be compelled to change my mind again, but I think the most correct is probably the one that Marco just told us, kamanstu, but the alternative that you will hear from respectable and learned chanters is a nasalized vowel, kamanstu. Okay, thank you very much for that, Marco. Oh, by the way, sorry, I said Marco because of the right around with the two we've just been talking about. Now that you're thinking about it and we're on to you, Marco, would you like to recite or even chant this verse for us?
I try.
Okay, shall I turn up these? I've got the
Guru Natva.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mark. Would you prefer to the Devanagari or the Roman?
Roman.
Okay.
Italic.
Italic. Yes.
Guru Natva hi mahanubhavam Shreyu bhaktum vaishyama pihaloke Hartvar harta kamanstu guru niheva Bhunja bogan rudira pradigan.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Marco. Thank you.
Sometimes, James, may I ask you?
Please.
Sometimes we hear in Indic sources pronouncing Heva, like instead of Haiva.
Yeah. I can explain that.
Maybe it's the modern pronunciation of Hindi.
It is. That is exactly that. So we've got the A sound and we've got the I sound, which in Sanskrit are, as we know, two completely separate sounds, completely different to the Indian ear. A and I. In Hindi, I'll just write this in The A sound is he, as in He Ram, the last words uttered by Mahatma Gandhi as he was shot. He Ram, he like O Rama, He Ram. And you've also got, in fact, it so happens that the Hindi word for is written like that, which in Sanskrit would be hai, hai, he and hai. However, what happens is that in modern Hindi, they don't pronounce this I as an I sound. It's more like an open eh. Eh. So he and he. It's almost like the distinction between, in Italian, you've got the two words, e meaning and meaning is. E. And you have the distinction in Italian, pesca, the different. So what they do in Hindi, instead of the I, that becomes this open sound. So their distinction is between he and he. Now that will account for what you have heard, Marco, that instead of saying ihaiva, a Hindi speaker would tend to say ihaiva, sound. And it's as simple as that. In fact, she's not here today, but Mandira, who's a native Hindi speaker, will tend to do it like with an air, but she has to make a little bit of an effort, to make it the A sound because it's so natural for her in Hindi. But that fully accounts for this phenomenon that you've mentioned, Marco.
Thank you.
If you encourage the Hindi speakers to do it, they will, because they will certainly have heard most of them will have heard the Brahmins chanting it. And if the Brahmins are doing it correctly, even if they're native Hindi speakers, they will do the I right in the correct traditional Sanskrit way. But watch that tendency of the Hindi speaker to slip back into saying the a, and this exactly the same phenomenon for o and au. So the modern Hindi speaker will say o and o, a bit like in Italian you distinguish in o and o. So the Hindi speaker hai, ho, whereas it should be hai, ho in Sanskrit. Okay, then. Who is next? Srinimala, please. We're round to you.
Guru Hatvahi Mahanubavan Sleyo Bhoktum Vahikshamapahi Loke Hatvata Kamaustu Guru Haiva Bunjiya Bhogang Udira Pradigdana Rudira Pradigdan.
Rudira Pradigdhan. Rudira Pradigdhan.
Yeah, Pradigdan. I was taking the Roman.
Right. Tell me, in Sinhala, do you have the word Rudira meaning blood?
Rudira means blood, yes.
Okay, right, yeah. So that's exactly so in modern Sinhala you use that same word, do you?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
fine. So that's the that's the
we call Rudira blood. Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it's the Rudhira. It's from an old root, no longer found as a verb, but it's an old root, rud, that actually means red. And and the Italian rosso, and our English word red, and also the older English word ruddy, meaning red colored, and rudhira, they all come from that same root. I'm very happy to see, Srinimala, that in modern Sinhala you're using the same word in the old Sanskrit meaning. So rudhira pradigdha, yes. blood stained or smeared with blood. Okay, thank you, Srinimala, and we're round to you, Sanyu.
Guru na hatwa hi mahanubhavan shreyo bok buktum dam bakshamapiha loke hatwa takamamstu guruni haiva punjya bogan rudira pradikatam.
Okay, very good. You were telling us in the previous session, Sanyu, with the Pali session, that in Burn we were discussing, for those of you who weren't at the Pali session, the different ways that the Thais and the Burmese pronounce the aspirate consonants. For example, in Pali, Dhamma, Sanskrit Dharma, that is a sound that the Thais, okay, there are some who can use the Indian pronunciation, but the Thais, the phonetics of Thai doesn't have a the sound. That's why you'll hear the Thai saying dhamma instead of dhamma, dhamma. And I was interested to hear Sanyu telling us that the way because Burmese doesn't have a b or a the way the Burmese do it is simply drop the aspiration. So can you pronounce dhamma in the Burmese way, Sanyu?
It's dhamma.
Dhamma. You see, an ordinary d with no aspiration. Now here, you were saying bhuktum and bhaikshyam. Do you do the same in Burmese for the b sound? Just pronounce it as an ordinary b.
Bhuktum. So I think in Burmese we simply drop the aspiration.
Okay.
It could be simply B sound.
Okay, fine. So exactly the same as they do with the dhamma.
Yes, exactly.
And the word, for example, in Burmese, I'm sure you use the word bhikkhu, do you?
Yes.
Meaning among. So how would you pronounce that in Burmese?
Bhikkhu.
Okay, exactly that same phenomenon. It's the b, but you drop the aspiration.
Yes.
Whereas the Thais do it the other way around. They say bhikkhu, dhamma, bhikkhu. Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you, thank you. Right, Palden, round to you, please.
Guru Nahatva Imahanubhavan Bhavan Shreyo Bhuktum Vaikshamapiha Loke Hatvarta Kamangstu Guru Nihaiva Bunjya Bogan Rudhira Paridgan.
Okay, thank you very much. Lovely then, Palden. And finally, Kath, who will give us...
I'm not going to chant this because there's the wrong number of syllables for the tune. I don't know any other tunes actually for this. So.
Oh, well, that's a pity. I was just so looking forward to the grand finale with Kath chant. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Guru Nahatva Himahanubhavan Shreyo Bhoktum Bhaikshama Pihaloke Hatvartakamastu Guru Nihaiva Bhunjya Bhogan Rudhira Pradigdhan.
Okay, thank you, Kath. So even though you didn't give us as it were, a standard chant, nevertheless, you got all the longs and the shorts absolutely right, including the heavy syllables and the light syllables. Some notes to get in. So just to recap and make sure that you all know, are you all fully aware of what I mean by a heavy syllable and a light syllable? The experienced chanters among you, of course, will know. Is there anybody who's not fully aware of what I mean by a heavy syllable and a light syllable? Okay, these are the words that are actually used in Sanskrit prosody and in talking about meter. In fact, they use those words garu and laghu. Garu meaning heavy and laghu meaning light. So the rule is actually it's a very easy rule, and a syllable. Oops, I lost my pen. Oops. Sorry, something's gone. It's not functioning properly. So, the words in Sanskrit. So my pen isn't. It's only part functioning.
Are you on your pad, James?
Oh, sorry, I am, yeah. I'm trying to get my pen. Let me just erase again. Not a good technology day. Here we are. Oh, it's not working. Heart working. This is no good. This is no good. So do me a different color. No. Oh, no, that's working. There we are. Ah, working in part. Garu and laghu. Heavy and light. We know these words. They're reflected in our language. There's this gravis and levis in Latin, grave leggero in Italian, and it's that same garu from which we get through the Latin gravis, we get gravity in English. And this laghu, we get the g to v through Latin, levis, but then the v comes back as a j in Italian, leggero. And through the Germanic stream, the g became a ch sound, was originally licht, which then in modern English we pronounce light, though we still retain the spelling L-I-G-H-T. So the basic rule is, if a syllable has a long vowel, any long vowel, it is always heavy. Okay, simple as that. If, however, a syllable contains a short vowel, oops, where are we? If it contains a short vowel, now look at this rudhira pradigdhan. Now here we get a slight complication. You've got to be alert to the joining of the words. If you pronounce the word rudhira on its own, it's 3 light syllables, rudhira. Why? Because you get an u in what's called an open syllable, because look at the next consonant is immediately followed by a vowel. So it's rudhira, rudhira. Short, 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 light, light, light. If you pronounced rudhira on its own, it would be light, 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 rudhira. Now what happens here? Sanskrit likes to run all the syllables together and treat it as one unity. So although the word rudhira, the final syllable ah, would be light on its own, the next word begins with a consonant cluster, a pra. That makes now the whole syllable as if it's a rup, rup. So it makes it heavy. Rudhira pradigdhan. Rudhira pradigdhan. It makes a heavy syllable. So it's a short vowel, but immediately followed by a consonant cluster, either two dissimilar consonants or consonants or a double consonant. For example, here, Brunjia. The U is short, but the syllable is heavy because it's followed by a consonant cluster. Nj, Brunjia, Brunjia, heavy, heavy, light. If you get it wrong in pronunciation in ordinary prose, it doesn't matter too much. But where it really matters is if you're chanting in unison. Because if you're chanting in unison and you get the syllable length wrong, then you are out of step with everyone else. And the basic rule is that the heavy syllable has a measure of 2 and the light syllable has a measure of 1, even the length of time it takes to say it. So if you look at this word bunjia, you can divide that notionally into 5 units of time. Bunj, 2 units. E, 2 units. 1 unit. 2, 2, 1. And those of you who are familiar with chanting, I'm speaking, of course, particularly of our expert chanters here, Marco and Kath, will be very well aware of these lengths. In Vedic, by the way, you can have some syllables will have a length of 3. And except that circumstance applies to Vedic only. And if you look at the old printed texts of the Vedas, they will even write a little 3 above the line to indicate that it's 3 matras, or three meters, three lengths. So hopefully that should be clear enough. Basically, heavy syllable, long vowel, automatically a heavy syllable. Short vowel, it's a light syllable unless it's followed by a doubled consonant or a consonant cluster. Or at the end of a word with a consonant closing, like an and like loka, heavy, light, but lokam is heavy, heavy. Anyway, if any of you have any questions, we can always deal with those as we go along. So I see the great importance, apart from just we all want to be accurate, but the practical importance, as I say, is if you're chanting in unison with other people, it's vitally important. Otherwise, your rhythm will be spoiled. Okay, then. So I think you've all had a go at reciting. So before we move back onto the Bodhicharyavatara, be delighted to deal with any questions or comments that you may have.
One question is...
yes, please, Marco.
It seems that begging food is seen not so well, whilst usually in the Indian culture, sometimes people asking for food like bhikshu or sadhu, they have a different consideration. They are usually considered in good terms. It's for us giving food to them, it's a means for procuring for good karma, opportunity of progressing in the spiritual path.
Well, actually, that's a very interesting point you've made there, Marco. A very interesting point indeed, because if you look at what Arjuna is saying here, he's thinking here that the total humiliation of being reduced to being a beggar, he would regard that as a humiliation. I suspect again, everyone please come in and give your own ideas, that the one who begs his food as a bhikshu, as a shramana, as one who has gone forth into the holy life, if he has voluntarily chosen that way of life, and he's voluntarily chosen to renounce sense pleasures, to leave his home, to beg for his food, it's all part of the holy life. So yes, that is admirable. So he is doing an admirable thing. We respect what he's done. And as Marco observed, we improve, it's an act of punya, we improve our own good karma by giving. But I think here there's drawing this interesting distinction now. This is not somebody who has by spiritual aspiration chosen to lead the holy life. He's down on his luck. He's been defeated. His dharma is to be a ruler, a warrior. So this is a person who's failed in his dharma. So I think probably the great difference is, have you voluntarily chosen that life, or have you been defeated and failed in your duty? I suspect that is the real reason here.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that you raised, Marco. But it's interesting food for thought there. Okay, then. So if we're all ready, we can move back to our Bodhicharya Avatara, which I'll call up. Here we are. If you So we're now back to the Bodhicharya Avatara, chapter 6, now verse 27. Yat pradhanam kilabhishtam yat tadatmeti kalpitam tadev hi bhavamiti nasanchintyoupajayate. Once more. Yat pradhanam kilabhishtam yat tadatmeti kalpitam tadev hi bhavamiti nasanchintyoupajayate. The pradhana, the elements of pradhana are quite clear. It's the root dha, meaning to place or to put, and pra, before, in front. So the pradhana means literally that which is placed in front, but it's a polysemic. It's got multiple meanings. For example, it can mean the chief or most important thing. Even in modern Hindi, for example, the prime minister would be the pradhan mantri, the chief minister. Here, pradhana is used in the a Hindu philosophical sense. The chief thing or person, and then in Hindu philosophy, the primary germ of all existence, the primary, that which existed at the very beginning. So that from its primitive meaning of its, the first thing, the most important, in Hindu philosophy, it's that the germ of primal matter, the very first thing that existed. So, and abhishtam means sought for or looked for. It's the root ish. It's a very common word, and it's the it's slightly irregular because it makes ichati. Let me call up the find my iPad again. There we are. So ish, to want, and as I say, it's slightly irregular because it makes its present tense ichati, very common verb to want. Also, it makes a verbal noun. Oh, sorry, my pen is playing up again. Icha is a noun meaning desire. And so this word ish, meaning to want, it's actually cognate with the word that has come into English as wish. So ish and wish are in fact etymologically that same word. And in the Slavonic languages, for example, the Russian for to seek something is isk. The root is isk, iskach, and I am looking for something is ishu. And with the prefix abhi, is just abhi, and the past participle then is ishta. This prefix abhi suggests motion towards something, that which is desired, that towards which the mind moves. You move towards it. So this abhi doesn't really alter the meaning of the word. It just gives this dynamic sensation to it. The mind moving towards something, the mind going to look for something, seeking or desiring in that way. So yet pradhanam kilabhishtam. The kila it's just a filler word here. It doesn't really add any, it doesn't add much meaning. It could be indeed that very primal matter which is sought for, which is the object of your search. Yet pradhanam kilabhishtam yet tadatmeti kalpidam. That which is conceived, kalpita, imagined, conceived as being the Atma, who's saying indeed that primal matter, that same thing which is conceived of as being the Atma, when the self. Tadevahi, even that, tadevahi, even that. Na sanchintya, not thinking, bhavani iti, even that primal matter doesn't think, oh, I'm going to be. So saying even the primal matter exists by causes even before that, and it's saying it does not have this idea, oh, I have decided that I'm going to be. And upajayate, it's arises. Equally, it could have been upapadyate, upajayate. They have the same meaning. So in idiomatic English, we would say even so that primal matter that people look for, which is conceived of or is imagined, kalpitam, as being the Atma, tadevahi, even that does not come into being deliberately thinking, oh, I am going to come into being now. So he's emphasizing the fact that it's just this pradhana of itself exists through a cause. And it doesn't decide that it's going to be. It just comes into being from an endless series of preceding causes. Sanchintya, it's from that same root chitta, from which we get chitta, meaning the heart mind or the mind. And sanchintya is the absolutive form with the prefix sanchintya, I mean having making a decision about it, formulating that thought in its mind. And this upajayate, it's from the root, again, slightly irregular, not very, just a slightly irregular verb. Sorry, let me give you the iPad again. Here we are. Jan, a well-known root, jan, to be born or to. It's the same word from which we have the Greek genesis, which we pronounce in English as Genesis, and the Latin gen, from Italian il genitore. So it's that same root, someone who gives birth. It's a class 4 verb, class 4 atmanepada verb. By class 4, it means that it adds a y to its root. So I'll give you the form that it would be if it were regular. But in fact, it's slightly, you would expect to see janyate. The class 4 accounts for the y, and it's the atmanepada, so ends in a te, not ti. However, in fact, by a slight irregularity, the jan becomes a long a, so that accounts for jayate. Jayate, it is born. So just remember there, the root is jan, but by an irregularity, it becomes jayate in the present tense. And upa, which is, as you know, directly cognate with our English word up, is born, but so upajayate, the idea is comes into being, comes into existence. Like, utpadyate, the same kind of meaning. By the way, this root dha, which the basic meaning is to put, when it comes at the end of a compound word, the dha becomes a dhi. So to concentrate one's mind is samadha, whereas the noun we all know is samadhi, but it's that same which becomes di at the end of word, samadhi. And indeed, sandha, to put together. Sandha, but the verbal noun is sandhi. That's where we get our word sandhi, meaning what happens to the sounds of a word, literally putting together. Incidentally, the word sandhi in Greek, synthesis, it's that same word, synte in classical Greek, synthesis and synthesis, we say in English. Sintesi, I think you say in Italian, would you say? That's sintesi. So it means putting together. So there we are. Our English word synthesis, Italian sintesi, and the Sanskrit sandhi are etymologically the same word. So I just want to make sure that you've all fully understood the structure of this tadevahi bhavaniti nasanchintyoupajayate. Is there anyone among you who wants to give me like a passing explanation of this line?
I'll have a go if nobody else will.
You have a go, Paolo.
So the there's two, actually there's three verbs, aren't there, with the absolutive as well. So it's tad, that. I'm going to leave that alone for now. So it's bhavami iti, so thinking, I will become, or I become. And then does not give rise to something, having thought about it in the absolutive.
Okay, right, yes.
A little bit garbled, but you know what I mean.
Not too garbled, really. And the iti, of course, just means end quote. Remember in Sanskrit, same in Pali, you end quote by the use of ti or iti, but you don't start the quote. Sometimes you can get a little bit of ambiguity. You know where the quote ends because they've got ti or iti, but you don't necessarily know where the quote starts. That's you just got to work that out. So tadevahi na upajayate sanchintya, open quote, bhavami iti, close quote. So it does not come into being, na upajayate, sanchintya, after thinking or having thought, bhavami, I'm going to be, I am. Thank you, Paladin. So shall we have a couple of recitations of a couple, say I think we have eight people. Are we ready for a recitation? But in any comments or queries, please come forward.
Yes, what's the kila? Can you just, the indeclinable? Is it just indeed, or is it just a sort of emphatic thing?
It's one of these
Enclitic things.
Yeah, yat kila. So okay, that which is that primal germ, which is conceived of as the Atma, and indeed it just emphasizes what was indeed, emphasizing what's going before, strengthening the point. So it's an optional inclusion, and indeed I think in this particular context, the killer is pretty accurately represented by the English indeed. Let me just to call up Monia Williams for you, see what he has to say about it. Killer. Let me just Tuna, I think I might have failed first time round to see the full force of it, because there is also the word kira, and I was confusing with kira. Let me just look at kira. So I had been confusing because in Pali, in Sanskrit kila, and in Pali it becomes kira with a r, and that tends to indicate that you are, when you're making a statement followed by kira, it means that you are not taking responsibility for the statement. It means you are simply repeating what you have heard elsewhere. So I hear, so I am led to understand, we might say. So here, the killer, let's go back to so killer does not exist then in Sanskrit, but killer. I think it probably, now, yeah, I was wrong about that. It's not just indeed. I mean, it does have the meaning indeed, assuredly. Okay, it is there, but there was an additional nuance to it that I hadn't spotted. And it could mean that which is called what other people say is. In other words, I'm not taking responsibility myself for calling it a pradhana. I'm simply repeating what other people have said, what is said to be. Yet pradhanam kila abhishtam. I stand corrected, yeah, okay, there we are. I think it does have more than just, although it can be indeed, I think in this context, it has the meaning of what we hear being said as. Do you understand what I mean there? You can make a statement, and if you just make the statement without more, you are normally taking responsibility for the accuracy of it. Whereas if you make a statement and they said, one is led to believe, so I hear, I am told, that means you're not taking responsibility for the truth of the statement, you're simply repeating what you've been told. And it could have that tone here.
Kate
Killer. Sorry?
It's interesting. So Kate Crosby's translation sort of kind of does both, because she puts the primordial thing in kind of inverted commas, but she also puts much sought after, so it's kind of emphasizing the sought after, but also
okay, the sought after abhishtam, undoubtedly correct. Do you know, I think you've spotted that well, Paladin, so I didn't have Kate Crosby in front of me there.
She's put those inverted commas that you do when you're sort of going like the kind of so-called.
Yeah, like exactly. I'm not taking responsibility for it. Inverted commas. I'm simply repeating what I've heard elsewhere. I think that then that's right, Paladin. So that Kate Crosby's use of the inverted commas there would correctly convey the meaning of the killer. You know, not me saying it, Gov. I'm just repeating what someone else has said. Yes, thank you for that, Paladin. I'd missed the nuance. You led my mind to it. And this lovely word, kalpitam, such a rich word there. The original primal meaning is something like putting in order or arranging. And then it has the idea of a mental formulation, like putting something together in your mind. And then in Hindu philosophy, the universe, or the tangible universe that we know, is like a kalpa, an imagination, a formulation in the mind of Brahma. So Brahma makes a kalpa in his or its mind, with Brahma neuter. So that is a formation in the mind, then becomes the universe as we see it. So this word kalpa, Pali kappa, which is generally translated in Hindu philosophical terms as an eon. You know, the entire length of the universe, from the creation to the destruction of it. It also has some very humble meanings. So that same verb kalpayati, if you kalpayati somebody's hair, it means you give him a haircut. And you can kalpayati a meal, meaning preparing a meal. So the basic idea of putting something in order, something that was chaotic, you're putting it in order making it right. And incidentally, in the Noble Eightfold Path, what's sometimes translated as right intention, in Pali it's samma sankappa, in Sanskrit samyak sankalpa, is that sankalpa is not just it's the formulations, like the intentional formulations you make in your mind, a bit like sanchintya, but this is the sankalpa is where all of the possibilities of what action you might take, and your sankalpa is when it gels into a decision. That's what I'm going to do. That is the sankalpa, and that's the one that's commonly translated as right intention. As I say in Pali, samma sankappa, Sanskrit samyak sankalpa. So I think we have time for a couple of recitations. I'll just follow the order on my screen, and then we'll resume next time round. So, Anne, you're first on the screen again.
Okay. Yat pradhanam kilabishtam yatadat meti kalpitam tadeva hi bhavamiti nasam chintyo pajayate.
Now, the first half of the first pada came out very nicely, and the whole of the second line came out very. But there was slight stumbling. Yattadat meti kalpitam, yattadat meti kalpitam.
Yattad atmeti kalpitam.
That's much better. Yattadat meti kalpitam.
Yatad, I get mixed. Yatad atmeti kalpitam.
Yes, but be very careful. You were saying yatad. Remember, you've got to pronounce this like yatad. You've got to pronounce the final ta and the next initial ta clearly. Yatad, yattadat meti.
Yattadameti kalpitam.
Yattadatmeti.
Kalpitam.
Okay, good.
Yattadameti kalpitam.
You're saying ameti now. It's atmeti.
Atmeti.
That's it. Got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Anne. We're on to you, Teresa.
Yat pradhanam kilabishtam yattadatmeti kalpitam tadeva hi bhavamiti na samchintyo pajayate.
With my humble apologies, Teresa, because I had to write something down, my attention wavered, and I do apologize, entirely my fault. My attention wavered from you as you were pronouncing this pada, the very same pada that Anne was repeating for us. So could you just say this again? Yattadatmeti kalpitam.
Yattadatmeti kalpitam.
That's it. Very good. Good. Thank you, Teresa. And we've got time, I think, for just one more before I have to shoot off. And that is Shriyanimala. Would you please?
Yes. Yat pradaham kilabishtam yattadaham neti kalpitam tadeva hi bhavamiti na samachidyayo pajayate.
Shrinimala, this, can you just do this again? Nasanchintyo pajayate. Actually, break it down. Put,
Yeah,
just say sanchintya.
Yeah, nasom chinta yo Pajayati.
Okay, that was a lot better. Sanchintyo. It would be Sanchintya Upajayate. Sanchintyo Upajayate.
Jayati. Yes.
Okay, very good. Right, thank you very much then. 3 o'clock, so I will shoot off. And hopefully I will see you again next week. Thank you very much for joining
Thanks,
me.
James. Thank you,
Thank you.
James.
Thank you, James.
Yes,
Next
thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
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 Bye.